New junior developers can't code. Oh my God, it's a forum. I've interviewed plenty of junior devs over the last couple decades, and a shocking percentage of them didn't understand basic concepts. Well, decades. I mean, that can't necessarily be an AI thing. AI has nothing to do with it. It's the state of education. Plenty of schools are turning out graduates that just don't understand their chosen field. There is some truth to that. It's probably true that too many people go to college. There are way too many people who go to college so they can get like a college job, and then they end up either not getting a college job that doesn't actually require college education, or like a bull not job, you know? It's a consequence of teaching higher education like a vocational program, essentially vocational training, you know? There's not really much prestige to having a degree these days. What does vocational training mean? That one might be a question for Google. It's job training. Training for jobs. Poor hiring managers? I mean, yeah, kind of, right? Can you imagine being a hiring manager who's in like your 50s, and every guy who applies to the job has a really impressive CV or like grades, and then you actually test them on anything and they don't know anything? That's crazy. That's got to be pretty frustrating. This is just an extension of the English convo from yesterday. Well, it's all an extension of the post-truth world, right? An environment where education means nothing, nobody knows anything, nobody's literate, nobody understands anything, art is worthless, and nobody appreciates it anyway. You know, yeah, cultural nihilism. It goes even beyond like a post-truth society. It goes into the cultural nihilism. It's that no one even cares about anything. Isn't this mainly an American problem? No, I think it's primarily, well, maybe primarily, yeah, but this is like a broader issue. Trust me. What's going on with all the hiring manager hate? Nobody likes hiring managers because those are the people that turn new college graduates down. I mean, they're not positioned favorably. You know, they're not made to be likable. You know, that being said, like given the current stock, but it's true that people should make art and everything. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not advocating for like additional nihilism to pile onto the pre-existing nihilism. I'm just acknowledging that like we have a serious issue with nothing. No one even cares. No one cares about anything, dude. Like, we don't have Black Panther Party members anymore. We don't have people like militantly resisting oppressive systems anymore. We have like Twitter posters on the left. We don't have neo-Nazis anymore. We don't have like skinheads in leather jackets who run around like menacing minorities. We have like 4chan shit posters who jerk it to like lolicon on Twitter. Like no one cares about anything from any angle. Like from every end of society. We don't have everything is like a fake copy of a previous model in politics and art. We barely even have film auteurs anymore. You have your occasional like Wes Anderson or something, but you don't have like you know, for the most part, like Hollywood and the broader game there. I mean, it's mostly just like corporate slop, and to an extent it always has been, but it's gotten a lot worse over the past couple decades, right? Everything is a cheap copy. How many things are new and innovative and authentic and like a greater version of themselves, whatever existed before? The indie gaming scene, I actually think, is a decent example, because I do genuinely think that they're still like going balls to the wall pretty often. Like you have a more significant cultural force there. And I'll give credit to that. You know, I'll give credit to that. It's not that no good art is produced. It's just that like as a category, like we are all kind of like walking through shadows, aren't we? There are still many people militant on the right. No. You have to understand what I'm talking about here, okay? Seriously, just read up literally any history on any militant political group from the beginning of the 20th century and onward. I'm talking union organizing, I'm talking brown shirts, I'm talking like Mussolini's fascists, I'm talking even liberals. Any protest, any group, any organization, whatever, everything today is a pale copy of what it used to be, on all sides. I'm not saying there are no neo-Nazis, really. What I'm saying is that, like, if you look at what we have now, on every end, compared to what we used to have, it's a broader cultural nihilism. Nobody cares enough, nobody believes enough. You've been saying a lot of boomer shit recently? No, because I'm not longing for a nostalgia of my past. I was born in 94. This isn't a nostalgia thing. It's an objective, like, fact. Like, the fact that people, by and large, like, everything has been kind of, like, homogenized and toned down. That is a fact. I'm not saying life would have necessarily been better back then, Yeah, it's melancholy. It's definitely melancholy. I won't say it's nostalgic, though. Boomer posting is nostalgic. I resent this. I resent this attack on my character. Is there anything inherently wrong with nostalgia? Yes. Nostalgia is fascism. Look to the future, comrade. Political parties in Europe have lost millions and millions of members because no one cares to be active anymore. Yeah, and the political parties themselves are also like weak versions of their past. Seriously, look at Meloni in Italy. Meloni literally Mussolini follower. And what does her party look like? Is she making moves like Mussolini did? Are we getting any marches on Rome? Are we getting like balcony speeches every day to an audience of people sig heiling? No, we're not. She's like, for the most part, just a racist conservative politician. Look at the AfD. Look at what the Nazis were like when they controlled a smaller share of support in Germany compared to what the AfD now commands. What were the Nazis doing back then? They were killing people. Nowadays, the AfD, what are they doing? They're posting roadside Pepe memes, you know? Their leader is a lesbian woman. Like, Jesus. No one believes in anything. Nobody cares anymore on any side. Nobody gives a shit. I'm not kidding. Nobody cares. You do? A version of me that existed 100 years ago in the United States would probably be going out and joining, like, militant union or pro-labor protests. In fact, like, demographically, that's almost certain to be the case. Nowadays, I'm trying to beat every total war campaign on very hard with every race. It's just people, it's not even a matter of like individual disinterest. It's more a matter of like the entire social weave that brought people together has been pulled apart, you know? Like, you can't be a militant labor guy because unions aren't militant. Like, what are you gonna do being a militant labor guy, right? You're gonna go out there and what? Do what? With who, right? It's not just about people, it's the entire framework. Is it convenience? Yeah, to a large extent. What about developing countries? Do they care? Well, yes. Go look at like the militant, the resistance fighters in Myanmar, for example. Like, yes, actually, it seems like once a society gets comfortable enough, right? Once the like child mortality rates get low enough, every like society gets streamlined to a point where everything's convenience based and nobody cares anymore. I don't know. It seems to have happened all over the world in every country that's developed. That sounds good. I don't think that sounds good personally. I think that the idea that widespread comfort, health, safety, and technological development all lead to people becoming like shallow versions of their previous selves. Like everything gets kind of weaker and more transparent and more inauthentic. I think that's actually very bad in an existential sense. Like that's pretty scary, you know? The idea like, well, as a necessary consequence of society getting more convenient, everyone stops caring, right? I wouldn't say medicine's making us worse people. Don't be a disingenuous piece of shit. You know perfectly well what I'm saying. You wanna thread the goddamn needle and find like you know a point I'm not making. Don't. We're on a rant here, okay? How do we make people care again? I don't know. Don't ask me. Ironically, modern medicine creates anti-vaxxers. There were anti-vaxxers back then too, but yeah, to an extent there's some truth there. Anyway, I guess it's just kind of weird because, like, if you look at popular culture, the idea is that once societies get really developed and advanced and comfortable, everyone's just kind of like using their leisure time to chill and do art or whatever. But it seems like in reality, not only do people not do that, but we don't even like produce that attitude in people broadly, you know? And the idea that it's about everyone being run through by capitalism is just not true. It's just not true. It's cope. Like when people say, well, the reason that people aren't having kids is because they can't afford them. Total bullshit. The wealthiest people in society are having fewer kids, and poor people in other societies are having the most kids in their society. It has nothing to do with the cost of raising children. Or at the very least, that's not the primary cause. It seems like, is it women's rights? No, absolutely not. That's also insane to say. Could it be hyper-individualism? It's just wild because, like, okay, I'm about to make some crazy statements from the perspective of a well-to-do white individual. So you all got to get ready for that, okay? You can get a feel for the way societies are organized all around the world. You get little snippets of it. You can see it in a National Geographic, in a YouTube video, whatever. I have seen poor people in countries like Chile or Brazil where poor people who don't have a huge amount of free time but still have some free time have what I would consider to be a life that is rich in character, even if it's not rich materially. They have to struggle, they have to work, but they bring the food in, they've got family, they've got friends. You know, there's like a vibrant social culture there. Now, obviously, I'm not saying they don't struggle, but I do think there's some like beauty in the life of it, you know? There are places all over America, white and black, maybe even, God willing, Hispanic and Asian, who knows, wokeness, there are incredible things are happening these days, where you have deprived communities full of people who objectively have a higher purchasing power than those families in Chile or Brazil who have their friends and their family around them, but their lives are wretched slop. Like drug addiction, no one cares. No one tries to educate themselves or better their own lives, even though they objectively have more free time and easier access to necessary commodities like clean water, sanitation, food, etc., than these otherwise thriving families in developing countries. What's going on there? Why is it that if you have people, like if you take two families who are equally deprived, we'll say equally deprived, and you put one of them in the slums of Brazil, the favelas, whatever they're called, and you take another one and you put them in West Virginia, or you put them in like a ruined neighborhood on the outskirts of New Orleans or something, right? See, I'm mixing the races up here. You get me. Why is it overwhelmingly the richer community builds in the poor country? Now, some people might say it's culture, which is true, but why is the culture different? Because it's not as though the culture of white people in West Virginia and black people in New Orleans, it's not like they have the same culture. So what's leading that? Like, why is there a parallel there? It's because the poor people need each other. You don't need your family. I don't know if that's true, because if we're talking about an equivalent level of deprivation, I think it should be the same. I think the difference is hope. I think it's that in Chile or Brazil, there is an understanding from the parents especially that if they give their children books and read to them, if they work hard, there's a feeling of purposefulness, that there is worth in improving their lives. But that exists too in West Virginia, in Louisiana. But maybe it doesn't exist as much. Maybe maybe it's the apathy thing again. Maybe like the problem with living in America or other developed countries is that you reach the ceiling. You might not be at the ceiling, but you can see it, right? When you're in a favela in Brazil or whatever, when you're down here, up above you is an infinite sky. It feels like the world is open to your expansion as a person, right? You grow and you develop, you become more educated and more wealthy, and the world opens up to you. But because nobody in America, or at least a lot of people in America, don't think there's a point anymore, they feel like they're not looking up at a sky. They feel like they're looking up at a ceiling. And to be honest, they're not wrong, right? Because look at the most powerful people in today's societies. They're miserable, drug-addled tech grifters from Silicon Valley. They are degenerate right-wing pundits and commentators who are grifting their way through the White House, but clearly have like no friends personally. We're not being given any like model, any aspiration. Maybe it's that in Brazil and Chile, and I'm guessing here, I don't know this for a fact, and maybe I'm totally off on this, but I feel like in America, we no longer have the idea of a virtuous aspirational celebrity. Like a person who is valued because they're seen as a model or a good example to be. Like we kind of have that, but in a lot of cases, it's more like, well, look at how wealthy and successful this person is. But maybe there's more of a like, well, look at this person or look at that person, like the good influence in countries that aren't as like cynicism pilled as us. I have no idea. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of chewing on this because it feels like socialism or like a material analysis of the factors involved here have to encompass like the forces that lead to this ennui, right? Like this dissatisfaction. You have to be able to understand and account for why are poor people in the United States so wretched relative to even more poor people in other countries. In the United States, in most places in the United States, even the very poor people are given enough to eat, to drink. Many have shelter. Most, like, there's only so many homeless people. I know there's a lot, but they're not like 10% of the population. Let's understand what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about people who have a house, they're with their family. But even in this environment, spoiled children? No, I'm talking about poor people. And also potentially black people, you racist. Why? Is it because of video games? Half joking with that one. Is it like before video games, you would have been like, I'm going to pick up whittling or something, and now I won't because I'm too busy playing game? I don't know. Easy distractions? It might be because of the internet, like to an extent, right? Because people feel, well, in my head, the Chilean and Brazilian family don't have internet, I guess. Is that the difference? They don't have internet or a smartphone, but everyone has an internet accessible device like a computer or a smartphone in America. Almost everyone. Is that the difference? Bro, no, they have internet. That's true. Everyone in Brazil has internet, but in my mind, they don't. So is that the difference in my mind? Is it a screen time difference? Wait, there has to be a way of accounting for this. Like, if you could like average out like poor households and internet use, are these households much happier before internet use because then they would use their free time to do something productive? Why is literacy so low in the United States? Do you have any idea how stupid that makes us look? There are countries out there where people have to read by candlelight, and they are buying candles with their very finite wealth because they want their children to be able to read after the sun sets, so they can learn how to read, so that they can have a better life than the parents did. And over here in the United States, even the poorest people have access to limitless information, internet, libraries, whatever. Don't you bullshit me. There's going to be someone chat there like, well, what if they can't afford the internet bill? You know perfectly well the vast majority of people in society have access to the internet, have access to libraries. Don't around with me, okay? But they don't use it, do they? I bet you if you took like a poor family living in Sudan and you were like, here's an American library, congratulations, for free, you now have access to like all of this information, they would lose their shit. But then you have like, but nobody in America goes to libraries. Nobody gives a shit. Even the bad ones, you know, or like even the good ones. Like no one, it's quality irrespective. I don't think it's that poor Americans have no sense of community, because I'm even talking about like interfamily like engagement, right? Like even if you're just talking about like family and local friends, there are poor people in America who have family and local friends, but no one gives a shit. Like no one has any like drive to improve themselves at all. That's not a poor thing, by the way. Nobody gives a shit about self-improvement as a concept at all anymore. Nobody does. Literally nobody. Nobody wakes up and goes like, I'm going to learn a skill. That shit, that's the purview of like influencers on Instagram and people who write like blog posts about the second house they're building. Okay, nobody does that. I do, I'm better. All right, that's good for you. You know what I mean though, right? And we have so much free time. Even poor people, for the most part, have a decent amount of free time. If you compare it to how much free time the average person had 100 years ago, even like people who work like multiple jobs and have to like take care of their kids and stuff, like they have more free time than a person in their like quartile would have had 100 years ago. So vague feeling of a degraded society has always been like common throughout the ages. Sure, and I acknowledge that, but I don't think that means that there can't be a relevant point there, right? Yeah, Aristotle may have felt that the kids of his day were like rude and society wouldn't survive their rudeness or whatever, but that doesn't mean you can never make a point about kids being ruder than they used to be. Like, I acknowledge that boomers are always going to complain about this, but I'm talking more like, okay, I'm sorry. I know the average person in chat is younger than me. Do you kind of understand what I'm getting at here? This like broader culture of nihilism? Because I feel like this is like the problem is a lot more fundamental than people are willing to get at here, right? Like it's not just like well, it's poverty or it's healthcare or it's whatever, like or it's job conditions or whatever. Those all used to be worse, but there's still something fundamental. There's something underlying all of it, like a general disregard for the value of growth and self-fulfillment and the point of doing anything, really. And it's so like abstract. It's not it like, because I think people want to make it concrete. They want to make it like, well, it's not this big abstract cultural thing. It's actually like, we just need to offer paid paternity leave. But that wouldn't fix it. That wouldn't fix it. Universal healthcare wouldn't fix it. Nothing would. Nothing money. It's not a money thing. People had a greater sense of purpose and community when nobody had healthcare. And we've lost that. Adding healthcare doesn't erase nihilism. It's not a school underfunding thing. Because back when a lot of Americans were being educated in literal, like, multi-grade schoolhouses out in the middle of nowhere where they'd have to, like, drive out there for 30 minutes or whatever, and it was one room and one lady in a skirt teaching everyone. Like, they cared more. It's not the money. It's nothing money. It's like a broader, I think it might be the internet, man, or it might be like mass media. I don't know. Maybe we need to go back to pamphleteering, because this problem was worsening well before smartphones. Like, smartphones have contributed, right? And the internet has contributed. But I think you could probably argue that this social ennui was still a problem back in the 1990s. In fact, you could argue that to a large extent, the massive uptick in crime during the 1980s was in large part because of this. In fact, you could argue that the post-civil rights movement environment for black people is a huge representation of this happening, because black people before the civil rights movement, while living as second-class citizens, inarguably had a greater sense of social community. Thank you very much. 1 second. A greater sense of social cohesion. But then after the civil rights movement, in large part due to like COINTELPRO and the crack epidemic, CIA, so on and so forth, but also due to like a change in the dispersion of black people across the country and the social expectations of them, what happened? Well, you have the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. And that's not internet. This is correlation, boss. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm only correlating like time here, but time is correlated to everything. That's how it works. The economy started sucking too. Yeah, but the economy sucked back in 1907, and there was more community and hope back then. You understand what I mean? There was more of like an aspirational, like, we can do so it's not, it can't be money. It can't be a money thing. Because if you start making it a money thing, it's like, well, look at this poor society, look at that poor society. Like, we're losing out on that dollar per dollar. It has to be alienation. I guess it has to be. But like, that's another big abstract topic. It doesn't really help. I mean, you could say it's late capitalist alienation. And I think there's some truth to that. But that's also just such a big and abstract topic. I think cars might play a role in it to an extent. I don't know. But they have cars in like poor countries around the world today. Could be the work schedule. The work schedule used to be worse, like much worse than 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week is nothing compared to what people worked on average 100 years ago. So it's definitely not that. But it's never just 40 hours. I promise you that working fewer hours would not fix your social ennui. If you had fewer hours, you would just spend more time browsing your phone and jerking off. If you had more free time, look, dude, there are people in society today who have tons of free time, and they're still miserable wretches. Okay? The idea that if you could just live without work, you would be like bouncing free through society, that's not true. That's cope. You know it. You know that won't fix your problems. You think money will help you escape? The nihilism's in you. More free time would just give you more time to waste. You already have, if you work 40 hours a week, you have a lot of free time. I guarantee it. And you waste a lot of it because you don't care. That's the problem. You think you're escaping this? You're not, and I'm not. It's a broader issue. We're not trying to outsmart or be better than like the average person who's tripped up in this, okay? This is like a larger thing. Yeah, because you'd been tired from working 40 hours a week. Oh, well, then good thing you don't live in any time period before this one where you would have worked more than 40 hours a week. That's not it. This is what I mean. This is the thing that bothers me. You can't reduce these broader topics down to like these simple, well, it's the healthcare. Well, it's the work week. No, it isn't. The social decay that we're referring to is not going to be fixed by a policy change. If anything, convenience is the problem. Convenience might be the issue, you know? Even with the jobs people work, it's like, well, everyone commutes in a car or whatever. Like, maybe it would be better. Maybe one of the reasons why New York City is so culturally lively is because everyone's MTAing everywhere. So you have like interesting experiences. You meet new people on the way to work. Even if you're just surrounded by them, you're not like interacting with them. You're still in an environment, right? As opposed to this like convenient, streamlined society where everything is like you have the garage in your house and you drive the car and then you drive the car for 30 minutes and then you park the car and then you're in the other building and then you leave that building and then you go back in the car and then you go back home and now you're home. Maybe you drive out to the grocery store. Maybe cars are a huge part of it. I don't know. I guess it's all alienation stuff. It's easy to be nihilistic about society when you don't interact with it at all. If New York is culturally rich, then why do they elect the worst and most nihilistic politicians? That's also a good question. Here's a hypothesis. In many poor countries, voting is a matter of survival, so everything is important. In the West, we're so comfy that our standards feel so guaranteed now, it doesn't really feel like it matters who wins. Yeah, but that kind of leads to the really uncomfortable possibility, which is that life actually is suffering, and if people get too happy or convenient, they actually get much less happy because everything stops mattering. Like that the people will accept a slow and gradual denigration of their living standards as long as it doesn't feel like a mortal threat. So you need the mortal threat to be dangled over a person's psyche in order to motivate them to do the things that matter. Like people will accept the stripping of their union rights for decades, slowly, bit by bit, because they're still going to have enough money for the food on the table. And hey, we just invented credit cards. And hey, we just invented Klarna. And hey, we just did this. And hey, we just did that. Don't worry. It doesn't matter how in debt you are. Meagerly, bit by bit, slowly, gradually, we may take away your rights, but you still fundamentally get to eat the food. So you're going to be fine. Don't worry. Whereas back in like the 1920s or whatever, it was more like, well, no, if the union rights are taken away, your ass is going to get like guillotined by the mechanisms of a loom or whatever. Like it's maybe it really is just you need to dangle that over people's heads. Right? No. The mortal threat has always been there to be sure, but people don't feel like it because everyone feels comfortable, right? Look at all of the undocumented Latin Americans in America who have been like, oh yeah, well, Trump is going to get rid of the other ones, not of me. Yeah, I fled that country because I was afraid for my life in that country, but in this country, I don't want to be compared to the bad undocumented immigrants. I'm doing work. He said he'd get rid of the ones who aren't doing work. Or all the people who are totally okay with our rights being revoked because like nothing ever happens, man. The biggest meme of 2024, nothing ever happens. When like stuff was happening the whole time, man. Everyone's so like blitzed out by a process of technological growth where like you every year you get like 16 new innovations in the tech that you use day to day. People are like, well, nothing ever happens because a news event happened but didn't immediately end the world. When in reality, like lots of stuff happened. Certainly now stuff is happening, but it seems like, is this what it takes to break the cultural ennui? That is why people voted for Trump, by the way. A significant amount of the support for Trump came not from people sharing his values, but from people being sick of nothing happening. Literally, that's like very easy to identify in when people talk about him. It doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter what outcome it has. They're just happy that he's moving fast and breaking things. And the reason people want that is because they feel like nothing is changing at all in society anymore, right? It's all just these menial incremental alterations, right? A society in which within 30 years you can go from home computers to lightning fast smartphones in your pocket, but your neighborhood looks exactly the same, and the roads have developed potholes that haven't been fixed since the Reagan administration. So, I don't know, maybe it's like the allocation of wealth from the real economy into the fake speculative economy that means that less stuff changes and happens around here. Maybe it's like the disconnect between technological progress and social progress, giving people the impression that social progress doesn't and in fact can't happen, so people aren't really like aware of what's happening because they think that no fundamental changes are going to take place. Maybe it's the alienation angle. It's probably a mix of all of them. I guess the point I'm getting at from all of this is it feels like a lot of analysis of like what's changing and why things are changing feels kind of like hamstrung a little bit. Like you can make an argument about like, I don't know, Zoran Mamdani being the best possible mayoral candidate for New York City, which I believe that he is. By the way, I'm very happy with him. But like he's arguing for the margins, man. He's arguing like maybe he'll get 51 over the 49 Cuomo gets, and that's if we're lucky. In a reality, it should be a blowout. And this isn't even to talk about like AI or the fact that like right now, as of now, you can't trust anything you see online at all anymore. So things are only going to feel more irrelevant because people are going to be socially disconnected. People are going to be detached. People are going to get the feeling of like, well, I know you can't trust stuff you see online, but nothing happens in the real world anymore anyway. So I might as well just go online anyway. Fear of change? Yeah. Y'all sad when you don't get the Switch 2 while someone in India happy when the temperature doesn't hit 40 degrees Celsius. You trying to say that? Yeah, to an extent. There's like a hedonic treadmill. But what if it's not hedonism that drives the treadmill? What if it's not happiness? What if it's comfort? What if discomfort is actually the fuel that makes people move, not unhappiness? That you can actually be uncomfortable and happy almost indefinitely. Like if you're happy, you don't necessarily get rolled back down to zero every day where you're like, oh man, every day I get to spend with my beautiful wife and my beautiful house and my beautiful kids. I don't think that happiness rolls away or whatever, but I think comfort might, or in fact comfort does, where once you get comfortable with anything, that comfort immediately becomes a convenience and the convenience becomes a necessity. And that as a consequence of that, we optimize not for happiness but for comfort. And unfortunately, that's like a divergent path in a lot of cases where people would be happier walking 15 minutes to work than driving 10 minutes to work, but everyone will drive instead. So I guess society just has to be inconvenient, but also like it's like society has to force inconvenience on people. Stuff like mandatory voting, stuff like limits on when you can get things, maybe no more same day Amazon delivery, maybe like there are some types of comfort that are a treadmill where like it's a little fucked up that we've reached a point now where people are like, I want this cool thing I saw online, look at Amazon, oh my god, 2-day delivery, that's bullshit. Like people are like that now. I have been like that now. I'm not saying I'm better than other people. I'm saying this is like a broader society thing. Okay? It's a broader issue. So like I don't know. We don't need inconvenience. We need life to be fulfilling. Yeah, but I think that's the difference, right? Convenience makes life less fulfilling. Life is more fulfilling when you walk 15 minutes to work than when you drive 10. But driving 10 is more convenient. Your life is richer. There are so many things that are inconvenient that make your life richer. Like having a workout buddy. That's why people get them, right? Like running on your own is hard enough, right? So you have a workout buddy. Hey, it's 8 a.m. Here I am at your front door, ready to go on a run. And it's like, it's inconvenient because you just want to lay in bed more. But in your head, you're like, well, I don't want to disappoint my friend. So you go out on a run and you come back and you're happy you did. You're always happy you did. No one ever comes back from that run thinking like, you know, oh, I regret having done that or whatever, unless you like tripped and hurt your ankle, but you know what I mean. But you're skipping inconvenience. The most convenient thing would have been just like continuing to lay down. You know, maybe like there's a divide here. You ever see that? Hold on, drawings from kids commute to school, and it's the difference between like I don't know if this is real, but I think it's illustrative even if it's not. Post-truth internet, fuck you. Children's drawing of their trip to school. Walking to school versus driven to school. Is it real? I don't know. But I think it's spiritually real. I mean that. I'm not doing a bit. Isn't this spiritually real? I think it would be the same for you because I do drive around a lot. If somebody said like, "Can you describe your drive to a place?" Like if can you describe your drive to the grocery store or something? And I would be like, yeah, I got on the road and then I drove and so on. There was a light here. But if I walked, I'd be like, well, I saw a beautiful flower here and then this is where I saw a bunny rabbit. You get what I mean? Schulweg, that's German. Okay, but you understand the point that I'm getting at here, right? Walking through a city will change your entire perspective on it. Yeah, to be sure. But like you understand what I mean, right? Like it might be the convenience angle. Technology has made life a lot more convenient, but it's also incentivized us skipping out on things that would otherwise be fulfilling. Now, rather than meeting and getting food with our friends, we text them and get like text updates. Okay. Now, rather than like, going out and like doing a little bit of shopping in a diverse range of local shops or whatever, you get like the Amazon delivery or something. Like life is more convenient than ever, but people are miserable. Since people are so convenience brained today, do you think people would sell their right to vote for $1,000? Yes. Yes. I think that in the past, people have fought and killed for the right to vote. And I think that today people would sell it for $1,000. 100%. Absolutely. Easily. I don't even think 1,000. I think for a lot of people, they would sell it for like 100. That argument can also apply to current education. Convenience seems to be a primary goal of the current system. Yeah. Which is why like parents are the boss and teachers get chewed out anytime a kid gets like failed on a test they didn't write anything down for and no one ever gets held back. Yeah. The point is to streamline everything. so no one learns anything. Instant gratification is brutal for motivation, I feel. Yeah. It's probably also led to a significant drop in the number of people who take up hobbies because it's really, really difficult to get into a hobby. When, for one, you can look effortlessly online, like an infinite number of people who are way better than you. Like you have infinite access to a system of social rewards, which are privileging extreme levels of skill that you can't match up to and maybe never will. And then for two, it's like every cheap bullshit treat from China or whatever, like what's your skill? Is it whittling? Is it stone carving? I mean, you can find what you can make for like $4 on Etsy because it's been drop shipped from China. And now with AI, that's extending into a wider range of fields, right? It's still good to learn the hobby. Just a bad mindset about it, I guess. I do think the internet has turned everyone into a complete sociopath. I do think the internet is the reason why today Trump can openly lie and do gaffes 50 times a day and nobody gives a shit. And in fact, people will celebrate him lying. Like people who are affected by his lies, who know he's lying, will be like, haha, Lib, you troll. You trolled. Haha. I'm happy you suffer. Whereas, like, back in the 1990s, even if there were plenty of bad people, at least they had, like, opinions. Like, I don't know. Unfortunately, it seems like the only way out of this is that the government has to either directly or structurally mandate a lot of inconvenience to sort of get things back on track. And I don't think that's going to happen. Also, a lot of people would just consider that to be tyrannical as well. They would just like move to countries where you could get your one-day Amazon delivery or something. Or maybe they wouldn't. Maybe much in the same way that America has access to a lot of commodity goods that Europeans don't. In Europe, they'd be like, why the fuck would I want that when I have a cafe nearby? Nobody in Europe is excited to move over to what America looks like, right? Like nobody living in Italy or France is like, yeah, I can't wait to live in like fucking Dayton. Like that shit looks great. Yeah, that looks fantastic. I can't wait to get like a 4% saving on my groceries or whatever. But tons of Americans want to move over there. This has been a very broad spectrum rant, I feel. I don't know. It's kind of like the monetary policy thing where now that I'm learning a little bit more about that, I realize that the previous arguments about like military spending are basically irrelevant. Um, and I wish like a lot of lefties would move up on that a little bit, where it's like it's not even the military spending, it's the bubble of money that the government won't pop because they're afraid of inconveniencing wealthy people. And it's like, well, why are people miserable? And it's like, dude, it's not because of work hours. It's not because of work hours, and it's not because of paid time off, and it's not because of any of that bullshit. It's because of well, it's because of a lot of things. It absolutely is. Is though? No, it's not. No, it's not. That's the point. That's the point that we've been arriving at. Like even people who live off of welfare in America, who have shelter and more money and access to food and water and stuff, they're miserable compared to a lot of people of comparable access in many other countries. It's not just the money. Like even if you're living off welfare in America, you could still have a better life than the vast majority of people who lived 100 years ago, even working people. Break your own leg, go live out in an area with like no property values or whatever, where shit's cheap, get your government paycheck, buy groceries. You're living a much more stable life than basically anyone in 1907. I get it's not the primary reason, but can we please not write it off? Don't be disingenuous with me. I'm not saying those aren't things worth fighting for. I'm saying that's not the cause of the specific thing that we're talking about, which is the broader cultural nihilism. The broader cultural nihilism genuinely does not seem to be caused by if it was caused by poverty, then why the fuck are suburban white kids some of the most like Patrick Bateman-esque anti-society losers? Come on. It's not this is not what we're talking about here. Because they're neglected by their parents, that's also not what we're talking about. I feel like you're projecting your own family situation, Coffee, because that's not the first time you've randomly brought up, like, parents. We're not talking about that. We're talking about other stuff. You have to pay attention! I know you're not getting quizzed on this. Why won't you acknowledge it's religion? Like, religious people are more or less nihilistic. Because if you think that religious people in America aren't nihilistic, You need to wake up and smell the roses, my friend. If you think atheism's causing this, you are delusional, okay? Religious, like Christian enclaves within the United... I was talking about like black Americans earlier, of which a significant majority are Christian. That ain't it, because people need fulfillment. Is fulfillment not accomplished through a management of inconvenience? Is fulfillment not the struggle in climbing the mountain, and then once you're at the top of it, you look down on what you've climbed? Is fulfillment not the work it takes to court someone or to develop a relationship? Is the struggle not the point to an extent there? Fulfillment isn't just getting things. Inconvenience is the kiln. It's the forge in which fulfillment is developed. So it's because we're dopamine maxing? Yeah, we need to like serotonin max or something. I don't know. Yeah, oxytocin maxing, exactly. I don't see why it's hyper convenience instead of hopelessness, because I think the hopelessness is caused by the fact that nobody feels like things can get better. And the reason people feel like things can't get better is because they're not looking for fulfillment, they're looking for convenience. I think people feel hopeless because it feels like nothing in their life is getting better or can get better no matter what. And as evidence to that point, you have so many wealthy and powerful people who seem just as wretched and miserable as the poorest people in our society, that self-improvement doesn't actually lead to betterment. And I think for that reason, a lot of people feel hopeless about self-improvement. I mean, fuck, why do you think there are so many people who act like you're a brain genius when you suggest that they should, like, clean up their room? Or yeah, when they should stop smoking as much weed. Ha! That's true. Glass houses and stone. Irrelevant as an argument, a fallacy, by the way, but also I'm fastidiously clean. How many among you make your bed after you get out of it? I bet you I mog most of you people, easily. I do? Okay, well, I'm not mogging you on that front then. I might be taller than you, though. When was the last time you replaced your shower towels? Dana, can you unmod nuts, ban nuts for 30 days, and then in 30 days remod nuts, please? All right. Been on this one for a while, but I don't regret it. Part of it is that people's lives aren't really ordered. I mean, no one really has any, like, expectations for the people around them. I do think that hyper-individualist tendency is pretty destructive. The, like, fuck other people, I don't owe anyone anything thing. Where people, like, neighbors are just, like, aliens who live 50 feet away from you. It's just, yeah. Anyway. Move it along, move it along.